Sports City, chefs, Sports City, chefs. Yeah. Cabby, Taj.
What's going on, Sports City? It's your boy Sirius back at the helm with another edition of Finger Foods, an exclusive here on Sports City Chefs, the network, and SportsCityChefs.com. As I customly say before we get started, if you're not currently a subscriber, I would definitely urge you guys to become a subscriber. Hit that post notification and that bell and get notified every time we post. We are also on a plethora of different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you enjoy the content that we bring to you on a regular basis, I would definitely urge you guys to become a subscriber and interact with us on social media. These thoughts and these feelings are those of my own and do not represent the Pittsburgh Steelers or Sports City Chefs as a company. I shoot from the hip, I pull no punches, and I definitely spare no feelings. I wanted to kind of get into the first half of the Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 NFL season, and I thought of a great way to do that as we on a bye this week would be to bring in my dad. For those of you guys that listened to us last year, me and my father kind of went through the 2021 NFL season at its conclusion. And that was a great thing for he and I to do, but it was also good for the network. So I wanted to come back and kind of hit it in the middle. So without further ado, Dad, what's going on, man? How we doing this evening?
We are doing well.
You know, Dad, Pittsburgh Steelers right now sit at 2-6. Things have kind of, I don't want to say gone off the tracks a little bit, but there's nothing like we expected coming into the 2022 NFL season. And as I've done all year long, and I wanted to somewhat compartmentalize our thoughts and our dialogue today, going over pretty much the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. But I wanted to kind of give you the floor, essentially, to kind of give your synopsis on 2022, and then we can popcorn, different aspects of the season. So, Dad, 2022, man, talk to me about it.
Well, obviously, we've been disappointed as far as the results are concerned. I think most Steelers fans thought that it would be a lot better than it has turned out. And there's many different reasons why. But to follow your format, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, obviously, the play of George Pickens, I think has been very good. Would like to see him use a whole lot more. Mm-hmm. Before Marvin Leal got hurt, he was doing some impressive things. Mm-hmm. Although most Steelers fans would never know this because they were not at training camp like I was this past year, I was very excited to see what Calvin Austin III was going to be able to bring to the table, but unfortunately, before the preseason started, he got injured and recently just had foot surgery, so most Steelers fans would have no concept of what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Much to my surprise as far as the good is concerned, Akuma Okorafor has done a lot better than I thought he would be doing, to be honest with you. Daniels has turned around to be at least a solid right guard. I have not been overly impressed, but I've also not been overly disappointed in Cole, the center. Mm-hmm. We'll get to the ugly when we talk about the left side of the offensive line. From a defensive standpoint, I think Miles Jacks has played very well, all things considering. I think Cameron Haywood has been what he's always been. Obviously, T.J. Watt has been out, which is going to the ugly side of the fence, if you will. Mm-hmm. And Highsmith has played solid, although I think Highsmith is a good Robin, not a good Batman.
Right.
So that's the good.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and jump in with good here from my perspective, then we can go back and forth. For me, the good, if you will, I definitely echo your sentiment with the emergence of George Pickens. You and I spoke at length after we drafted him, and it seems to be a running theme with you and I. I wanted us to go a different direction. I just had a feeling our offensive line and defensive line would need significant work. And so for us to go George Pickens when we did in the second round. I really wanted more there, but he's turned out to be as good as advertised. Like yourself, I want to see us use him a lot more. Offensive line wise, I'm not a fan. And again, we'll talk about this, and I think this is where we're going to have a difference of opinion on the offensive line. But for me, I think that the good, honestly, would be getting Kenny Pickett in the game. I felt as though he gives us a spark. He's not afraid to push the ball down the field. He sees it, he throws it, he anticipates it. Now, again, I think a lot of this is force. I think he was trying to force the ball to Claypool and to others. I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to do rookie-type stuff. So I think that's kind of borderline or whatever, but I am glad that he's in the game. I am glad that he's going to be the quarterback going forward. Defensively, I got to give honor where honor is due. I think Devin Bush is playing exceptionally well. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he is in a contract year and is trying to get paid. But whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Right. Miles Jack, I love him.
Which is different than what you said the last time we met together.
Times have changed. I think obviously Minkah Fitzpatrick is as good as advertised, but I have seen him get beat a significant amount of time on 50-50 balls. And for me, I mean, he's good, but if we're going to pay you what we're going to pay you, and if you're going to be that quintessential bell cow, if you will, in that defensive secondary, I can't keep seeing you get mossed. I just can't keep seeing you get mossed. Like between the Gabe Davis, the Buffalo Bill game, and what I saw last week against A.J. Brown, I need you to win more times than you lose. Now, again, on the flip side, he made some significant plays in Miami, which broke up a touchdown. He's exceptional in the run support game, blitz packaging. He is essentially the quarterback of that secondary. So again, I'm appreciative of his efforts, especially in that free safety spot. Trey Norwood is playing significantly well when called upon. Killebrew, I like what he's doing. Terrell Edmonds I have a love-hate relationship with Terrell Edmonds.
You love to hate him.
I really do. First of all, again, you and I spoke at length about it last summer when we did the wrap-up show. I didn't like him coming out of Virginia Tech. And when the Steelers get beat defensively, more times than not, Terrell Edmonds is in the picture. That touchdown, again, I'm referencing the Philadelphia Eagle game, the touchdown that in the corner of the end zone where literally he bit on a fake and dude walked into the end zone. It baffled me. And, more times than not, when we give up big, Terrell Edmonds is the culprit.
Well, typically, Terrell Edmonds should not be the culprit. When we give up big over the top, that's typically Minkah's position. Terrell Edmonds is a box safety. He can cover down the seams if you require. That is not a strength of his. Mm-hmm. But this past year has also not been as big of a liability as it has been in times past.
Right.
In relationship to something you said as far as Minkah's concerned, Minkah's gave up a lot. He's made a lot, but he's also given up a lot more than you would like for him to be able to give up. Again, there were a few 50-50 balls that you would love for him to come down with, but I wouldn't put it in the category of the bad or the ugly. Mm-hmm. It's just that you need your stars to be stars.
Right.
And on this defense, you basically have three stars. You have Cameron Hayward of the defensive line as a star. You have T.J. Watt at the linebacker position, who's a star, mm-hmm. and you have Minkah Fitzpatrick in the safety as a safety, who mm-hmm. should be a star.
Right.
Those individuals you don't expect or you don't anticipate them losing very often, if at all.
Right.
Everybody else, you're gonna give up plays because they know the other people on the side of the ball get paid too, and right. sometimes just stuff happens. But at the same time, I am a Terrell Edmonds fan, to be honest with you, personally, and I know what this is not. We still got a half a season of this year mm-hmm. to get through. I hope they do sign him to a long-term contract for this particular reason. He works well with Minkah. And if one of those guys break down, you can give him some major plays. Yes, in the Buffalo game, there were some major plays given. Yes, in the Philadelphia game, there were major plays given. But for the most part, they put a lid on things. I mean, we have lost 2 games by double digits points. But everything else, it's a play here, it's a play there, it's an opportunity here, an opportunity there. And we could, and again, I know we're not going back in the Wayback Machine or the time machine to go back and try to change history. But we could just as easily be 6-2 as we are 2-6.
Right.
A play here, a play there. I mean, you think about the Patriot game, and again, I'm not sure what we'll get into. We may go down this road.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You get into the Patriot game. If our cornerback turns his head, they don't score.
Yeah.
You got Moss on a play that if he just turns his head and put his hand up, basketball down, they don't score. You look at the Cleveland game, again, Jet game, Dolphin game. Oh my gosh, the Dolphin game.
Yeah.
Every time they scored, a couple plays before, we had an opportunity to intercept the ball, and our D-backs didn't do it.
Yeah.
That could have been a 10-0 shutout if our corners or safeties just catch the ball. And I'm not talking about stuff they had to make a spectacular catch.
They hit them right in the numbers.
I'm talking about hit you in the hands, hit you in your chest, hit you in your face.
Right.
So yes, there's a lot of things that could be changed, but we got to deal with what it is right now. So we'll go with that. But again, the Steelers could have just as easily been 6-2 as they are 2-6 if a few things break the right way.
So I mean, to that point, much of this season's to date could be wrapped up in, as Matt Tomlin was said, missed opportunities. We were talking before we started recording about the importance of T.J. Watt, and I hate to say if Watt plays, we win. But essentially, one of the major issues, and again, you spoke about it offline, is the lack of pass rush. And I guess we're kind of bleeding into the bad, if you will, of our first half of the season. We have one game where we have multiple sacks. Well, I take that back. We have 2 games where we have multiple sacks. And I know pressure makes diamonds, but it also causes quarterbacks to give us gift, if you will. And my thing that, without TJ Watt, we don't have a pass rush. However, there are plays to be made.
Yes.
And I guess essentially that's the more frustrating aspect of where we're at right now is that there have been 2 games when we lost by double digits. The other 4, if you will, are 1-score games, and the 2 games we won were 1-score games. How do we, as Steelers fans, wrap our heads around the fact that we're 2-6 and 1-score games? Like,
well,
we used to win these games. Like, what's going on?
The way we wrap our heads around it is we take the blue pill and stop trying to live in the red pill situation. Yeah. Bottom line is we got to deal with reality. We can live in a fantasy world if we choose to. The reality is, again, we can argue and justify if this or if that, whatever. But the bottom line is, as we stand right now, we are a 2-6 team. And like we indicated previously, my personal belief is this. If T.J. Watt's in that Patriot game, if T.J. Watt's in that Cleveland game, if T.J. Watt's in that Jet game, and if T.J. Watt's in that Dolphin game, those are all wins. I cannot sit here and honestly say that the Bill game and the Eagle game would have made that big a difference, although we beat the Bills last year with T.J. Watt.
Week 1.
So anything could have happened.
Right.
As far as your original question was concerned about what do we do about a pass rush, people need to make plays. And even though we have gotten pressure on quarterbacks, we have not brought them down because most people believe that you judge a pass rush by how many times you take the quarterback down because that's the record that's the statistic that shows up on the stat sheet. I'm talking about pure pressure. I remember seeing some games where it just seems like the quarterback had all day.
Yeah.
You look at the second half of that Jet game. Nobody got close to the man.
Not even close.
Okay? You going to tell me that rookie or very young right tackle was going to stop a healthy T.J. Watt? Listen, personal opinion, take it for what it's worth. When healthy, he's the best defensive player in the game. And yes, I do include Donald and Ramsey and Miller and all of those cats who I think are phenomenal players. But give me T.J. Watt over any of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had this discussion a couple of years ago. Again, once we drafted him, I wanted Reuben Foster, and you and I had that conversation, and then subsequently we talked about the importance of paying T.J. Watt as it relates to Bud Dupree, and you told me, you was like, listen, we're gonna pay Watt. I was like, no, we're gonna pay Bud. No, we're gonna pay Watt. So I mean, T.J. Watt, is worth his admission in gold, if you will, but I wanted to double click on something you mentioned. The lack of pass rush. T.J. Watt was out. He wasn't coming in. This, that, and the third. So my question is, and this goes to Daryl Austin and Flores and Tomlin, who are defensive-minded guys. If T.J. Watt clearly wasn't playing, and we understand that our bread is buttered through generating pressure on the defensive side of the football, then why were we not being creative, if you will, and mixing something up and sending pressure and blitzes to a Zach Wilson, who is in his second year, to a Mac Jones, who, again, is in his second year, Jacoby Brissett, again,
he's a journeyman.
I mean, he's a journeyman, so he's seen it all, he's done it all, but if what we do to get us out of stadiums with wins is generate pressure, then why weren't we doing that? And again, we're going to go off the side of the ball here in a minute because I'm going off on that side. Okay. But why weren't we sending pressure? Why weren't we doing stuff to generate that to give ourselves a shot?
Well, the thing about it is, if you just isolate, if T.J. Watt was the only thing that was missing in doing those games, we could sit and have a healthy debate about it. But you also remember, one of those games, we had all second-string defensive backs.
Tampa Bay.
In the back.
The game we won.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we won it, but it wasn't, that was one of the few games where we had consistent pressure on Tom Brady from only rushing 4.
Right.
And you can afford to play coverage. The thing that causes the Jets quarterback to throw up on himself is pressure. If you pressure and you don't get there, now we're talking about a secondary issue. Miami, do you want to have one-on-one pressure? You want to have one-on-one coverage with those guys? You're losing a heartbeat. You cannot do that. You cannot scheme up pressure as far as blitzing when you got guys running 4-2s.
Well, the issue with the Miami game, Dad, it was, I think the defensive plan for that worked. They just didn't capitalize on the interceptions.
Yes, but your question pertains to pressure,
right?
And how we couldn't scheme stuff up.
Right.
Okay, you don't blitz the Jets because you don't want to. You got track stars over there too. The thing about it is, if you got good to average speed receivers, you can call up blitzes. When you got people running 4-2s and you got more than one of them, you can't blitz. You cannot blitz because you're going to have people on one-on-one, and if a man makes one misstep, you're not catching them.
Well, at the end of the day, I guess game script and everything kind of dictates that. I didn't think that in the Miami game we needed to blitz. I thought they drove down the field, put the ball in the end zone. After that, I think Miles Jack and Robert Spillane played arguably the best game of the 2022 season when they started sitting in the underneath crossing stuff and making them hold the football, whatever the case may be. So I don't think there was a need for us to blitz per se in the Miami Dolphins game. But again, the Jets game, Zach Wilson had enough time to sit back there and swipe left on an apple, whatever the case may be. The New England Patriots game, we couldn't tackle to save our lives. I don't understand. Again, this is maybe me nitpicking though.
But think about the Patriot game. Did the defense lose that game?
yes and no.
Okay.
And here's why I say yes and no. Offensively, we are anemic.
Okay, I understand that. But the question is, defensively, did you play well enough to win the game? The answer to that question is yes.
I can't say that.
Yes, you can.
I can't say that because
if our offense was anything.
Well, I mean, that's been our story all year long, and we'll get
to that part.
We'll get to the offense.
My point is your defense, despite the lack of pressure.
Yeah.
If they can catch the ball, secondary wise, we're fine. Even with the lack of pressure.
Yeah.
Or the lack of sacks, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay? The defense played, if you give up 17 points, you should win the game.
Yeah.
Okay. The Patriots, 17-14. Should have won that game.
Yeah.
Before from Garuski in the Cleveland game, that was a back and forth game.
Right.
We actually led it coming after half.
Halftime, yeah.
Correctly. Mm-hmm. The Jet game, we had them up by 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And we did not put pressure in the fourth quarter on Zach Wilson.
Or get off the field timely on third downs.
Okay, but that's an offensive thing. I'm talking strictly defense. The Dolphin game, you give up 16 points, you should win. So even, despite the fact you do not have the pressure with the TJ Watt, despite the fact in a lot of these games, cornerbacks are dropping the ball or getting mossed or balls there. And listen, the Patriot game, even the Eagle game, despite the score, it wasn't like our defensive backs got smoked except for one on the Eagle game. They did something wrong. The guy was all by himself.
Yeah.
Everything else, good.
He been on a pump fake. But
good coverage.
Yeah.
Just didn't make a play.
Yeah.
Just flat out did not make a play. So even though we don't have a TJ Watt until after the bye, hopefully, even though our cornerbacks are dropping the ball left and right, we are still defensively playing well enough to win these games. Our problem this year is not your defense.
Right.
The problem this year is your offense has been so pedestrian, you got to play an almost perfect game just to get out with a win.
Which leads us into the ugly. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you call a segue. Matt Canada is still employed. As you look at offensively, we have 6 total receiving touchdowns, one of which was thrown by a guy who's no longer on the roster. So it's essentially 5 touchdowns through the air. I have beat the drum at length about this offense and whatnot. I really can't make heads or tails out of it. What's going on offensively? Like, I mean, I don't want to put this at the feet of Matt Canada. I haven't been a fan of Matt Canada since we brought him in. I mentioned this stat on an earlier episode where he's been the offensive coordinator for 25 or so games, and we've hit 20 plus points in 5 of them. I can't make heads or tails out of it. Now, Kenny Pickett's stats through 5 games, if you will, just touching 1,000 yards. He's completing almost 68% of his passes. But he has 8 picks to two interceptions, been sacked total of 12 times in the 5 games he's played in. Rushing ball, Najee Harris through 8 games has 108 carries at averaging about 3.5 a pop for 361 yards. He has 1 rushing touchdown. Jaylen Warren, who I think is outplaying him, if you will, is averaging 5.5 a pop. Receiving wise, the leader in the clubhouse currently is actually Deontay Johnson with 372 yards. He's gotten 76 targets. He's averaging almost 8.5 a catch. Everything is literally at the line of scrimmage. Pickens is averaging 13.5 a catch. 43 targets, 338 yards. It's just very lethargic. And of course, Chase Claypool, who's a member now of the Chicago Bears, when he was here, averaged about 9.5 a catch. He had 50 targets, touching about 311 yards. Najee Harris chipped in with 112 yards receiving at 4.25 average, and he has 2 touchdowns. So Najee Harris, our running back, has 2 touchdowns. Deontay Johnson has none. Pat Freiermuth has 1. Pickens has 1, and Claypool, once again, who's no longer on the team, has a touch. Derek Watt has a touchdown, which was thrown by Chase Claypool, once again, no longer on the team. This offense is anemic. How do we come out of the bye? Now, I will say this, coming out the bye, and we'll talk about this when we start looking ahead at defenses and, who we got coming up. But how do we fix this offense? Like, what do we need to do to jumpstart this thing?
Okay. As far as your issues pertaining to Matt Canada, again, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, considering although he's the offensive coordinator for over 20 games, and his offense has yet to average more than 20 points a game. As stated in the last time we spoke, he didn't have the quarterback to run his offense. So Ben did what Ben did. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not going to lay all of the blame of what took place when Ben was the quarterback. I will lay all the blame for this year at the feet of Matt Canada. Yes, you have a rookie quarterback, and I'm sure there's struggles there, but your job is to find out what this rookie quarterback's strengths are and emphasize those, not to run a system for the sake of running a system.
He knows the rookie quarterback. He was with them in Pittsburgh. Well,
he recruited him. He did not ever coach him until this year.
Okay.
There's a lot of things wrong with this offense. As I stated on the positive side, the right side of the offensive line from center to right, I personally don't have a problem with them. Is there things that they can do better? Yeah. The left side, and this goes to going to what I call the ugly. Mm-hmm. Everybody who knows anything about me knows how I feel about Green. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to feel that way about Dotson. Mm-hmm. At this particular point in time, what's your options? The left tackle is kind of a situation where there's times he plays extremely well. He's an aggressive run blocker. He does move people, but sometimes he gets beat. He holds. He makes mental errors. And so does Dotson. Dotson's made more mental errors. There's cost his team.
Yeah.
Coming to mind, the one glaring one took place in the Miami game.
Uh-huh.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to fix your offensive line, which I think they will address come early in this upcoming year's draft, but we're not talking draft now. Mm-hmm. As far as the running backs are concerned, whether it was the plate in Najee's foot or something else, Najee's not been what I expected from Najee this year. I am also of the belief that if he is not 100% healthy, you start Warren. Mm-hmm. I understand he's a captain. I understand he's supposed to be your bell cow. He's supposed to be the face of the franchise. But the long story of it is he's not getting the job done one way or the other. Now, we can blame the offensive line because he's only averaging 3 whatever yards a carry. Mm-hmm. But that same offensive line is getting 1-5.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
and again, I understand there's different plays being called and there's more opportunities. I get all of that. But you can't tell me that a guy who comes in off the bench cold can average 5 yards and you've been warmed up behind the same offensive line only getting 3.
I think the thing is, I'm going to pause here and then we can go back. I think the thing is with Najee, if you will, I never really believed in a sophomore slump. But he's not seeing it.
Well, that's the key. How can you be all of that in a bag of chips enough to be drafted in the first round and not be able to see it? Okay, I can go back through the all 22 and I can look at specific plays. I think we had a conversation with this on the phone one time where the hole was right there.
Yeah.
And he decides to bounce it to the outside, trying to do something. The hole was made there. This is a zone screen. This is not a man's blocking scheme. Zone scheme is you get movement, The back's job is to pick the correct hole because there's going to be a gash somewhere.
Right.
And I think when we sat there and talked about the Cleveland game, I showed you an example of how Chubb does it. He on the outside zone, he presses the outside until he sees a hole. He makes a step, cuts it, goes. Do I think Najee can play that way? I think he has the ability to. I like Najee, but at the same time, for whatever reason this year, whether that's you want to call it practice reps, you want to call it him trying to earn his keep as captain, whatever you want to put to it, he's not seeing it. Let's get to the receivers. None of our receivers are breaking out. None of them are scoring a whole lot of touchdowns or anything to that effect. Mm-hmm. Part of that has been the quarterback play, whether that's been Trubisky or whether that's been Pickett. Some of it is they're running the wrong plays. Mm-hmm. They don't have chemistry with these quarterbacks, whoever they may be. I like the talent of our receiving corps. And like I said, in my personal opinion, next year there's going to be a guy called Calvin Austin who's going to surprise a lot of people that nobody's even seen. Mm-hmm. He's really good. He's extremely fast. Now, if his foot doesn't cause him the speed, you're going to have something very special. As a matter of fact, while I was at training camp, and this was before Deontay Johnson signed his contract, there was conversation in the crowd that Deontay may not get his money because of what Pickens and Austin were doing. Mm-hmm. Just saying it for the sake of argument. Right. He's never played in a real game. Yeah, things can happen in practice that don't happen. I get all of that, but I was very excited to see him happen. I like the talent of our receivers. I like the talent of our tight ends. I like the talent of our running backs. I even like Kenny Pickett, despite the fact he's only thrown one touchdown this year. Maybe two.
Start two.
Okay. But if it's not the talent, you have to drop it at the feet of the coordinator. Mm-hmm. Now, in saying that, have there been times when people have been open deeper down the field and our quarterbacks that make the throw? Yes, I will give you that. But we can say that about any quarterback,
right?
Any offensive scheme. I personally believe that this will be the offensive coordinators last year.
Matt
Canada's last year. And I know there was a lot of debate about firing him in the middle of the season. Well, what does that get you? What does that get you? If you want to strip him of his duties, but he'll still keep him here, but what does that get you? Because the bottom line is both Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett have supposedly spent the last X amount of months mastering this particular offense, and to go change it midstream and expect them to improve is counterproductive.
See, this is where I somewhat disagree, okay? Because at the end of the day, to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's a sign of insanity.
Yes.
Okay. So we have had a great, more than enough sample size of this offense as is directed by Matt Canada. My issue with keeping him is that by keeping him, you essentially put your stamp of approval on the job that he's currently doing. And we can't, in good conscience, get in front of media and get in front of fans and say, we are trying to do everything, put the best foot forward to generate a winning formula and all that other type of Tomlin coach speak that he likes to give us. And yet we are still employing and giving acceptance to a job that is not being well done.
Okay. First, let me push back on that from this perspective.
Yeah.
First of all, we don't know what goes on in those meetings. And the fact of the matter is, one of the things that have been very consistent with Tomlin is we are not going to make knee-jerk reactions. And although we in the media, I say we fans, in the media is screaming for him to make a change, what does this get you this year? Because again, anybody who you bring who's in staff now is going to run basically the same offense.
Well, see, and again, that's kind of where my thinking was. Let's say we fire Matt Canada, then the wide receiver coach, gets to promote it, and we run the same thing. I think, honestly, there has to be a different voice. And you mentioned, where does that get us? We spoke offline, and we'll get to this here in a minute. Even with us at 2-6, coming out of this bye week, if we're able to get ourselves right, now again, this is with all things created equal, TJ Watt being back and us being able to, capitalize on opportunities and this, that, and the third. we are still not out of this thing.
No, we're not out of it.
And so, essentially, we have to, as Mike Tomlin would say, uncover every stone, flip over every rock to try to fix what ails us.
Okay.
And right now, the element in the room is Matt Canada.
The elephant in the room is the execution of what Matt Canada is running. And what I'm saying is if you're saying somebody else saying the exact same thing is going to make the execution better, then what was the real problem? The execution, not the voice. The problem with the Matt Canada offense is, for whatever reasons, whether it's fear, whether it's, I know in Trubisky's case, it was probably, you were told, our defense is good enough, don't lose the game. He didn't take shots downfield that would open. Even since Kenny Pickett has been in, he has not taken shots downfield that have been open. And if you go back and watch the All-22, you will be able to see this. Mm-hmm. If another band coming into the room and saying, let's do this or do that, if the quarterback still doesn't play any better, it still doesn't change your results. Listen, again, do I think Matt Canada is going to last past this year? No. But I am saying changing your offensive coordinator in the middle of a season when you don't have time to do anything more than what you have been doing but just do it better isn't the answer. One thing about Tomlin he's going to do is he's not going to make a decision as far as coaches are concerned just to appease the masses. He's not going to do that. Now, is he happy with our offense? If you get him into a private moment, I would think he would say no.
Well, we know that. He said that several times.
So the bottom line is this. He's not happy with it. He doesn't feel like changing the coordinator at this particular point is going to change it. The issue is execute the offense better, block better, run better, tackle better, catch better, and you will win. Listen, I would love for us to be able to put 35 points a game like we did when Bruce Arians was here and he was in his prime.
Yeah.
But AB ain't coming back in the room. Bell's not coming back in the room. And by the way, when Aronson was here,
we wanted him out too.
Your quarterback was killed and everybody was screaming for his head.
Yeah, we wanted him out too.
I was sitting there talking to somebody about it. You know when the Steelers offense was his most prolific? Is when we had the offensive coordinator, nobody liked.
With Todd Haley.
Todd Haley. Everybody was screaming for Todd Haley because Ben didn't like him. But the offense was at its best when he was the coordinator. Okay? Understand this. People like to say this. Players make plays.
Yeah.
Coaches can get you in the right position. If I say do X, Y, and Z, and you do X, Y, and Z, and you're open and nobody throws you the ball, is that the coordinator's fault? No, that's the guy who's throwing the ball's fault. And go back and look at some of the reactions of your receivers over this past year when either one of the quarterbacks were in there. They're very frustrated.
Yeah, they are.
Because they're getting open. But for whatever reasons, whether it's fear, whether it's inexperience, whether I didn't see it right, or whatever the case may be, these quarterbacks have not made the necessary throws. Now, what is the coordinator's job? To scheme people open. People have been open. Players have not made the plays. So yes, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I do believe come February, you will have an announcement coming out of Pittsburgh that Matt Canada has been fired as the offensive coordinator.
Great birthday present for me.
But I will say this. It's not all him. Just like, okay, let's put it this way. Defensive-minded coaches. You got Tomlin, you got Arians, you got Austin. Supposed to be defensive minds. Are they responsible for our cornerbacks not catching the ball? No. They had them in position. The player needs to make the play. Coach's job is to get the players in the best position possible. But once they are in that position, they must make a play. And our guys this year have not made that play.
I mean, when you put it like that, it does kind of calm my nerves and my mind a little bit. Because essentially, I mean, you're right. Like, offensive coordinator's job is to scheme people open. Defensive coordinator's job is to put people in place to make plays. And like we alluded to in the beginning, if this first half of the year could be summed up in a few words, it'd honestly be missed opportunities. Mm-hmm. We've been in every ball game we played in but two. Mm-hmm. And
those are the only two games I will sit here and say, sitting here as it is right now, that we were not even competitive in those games.
Right.
The score dictates that. When you lose 38-3, mm-hmm. you were not even in the game.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, you ain't get off the bus.
When the Eagles are pulling their starters and the game ends up 35-13, you were not even in the game.
Right.
I mean, at one point it was 7-7, but after that, done. So, okay, you get beat. Every other game, a play here, a play there, a play another place. Again, we were talking offline before we started recording, and I brought up the point about, in my opinion, T.J. Watt being missing cost us those extra 4 games we lost. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Before I tell you about T.J., let me put it this way. A few plays before T.J. got hurt, we had an opportunity to intercept the ball. Our cornerback dropped it.
Yep.
A few plays later, T.J. has a torn labor. If you would have just caught the ball, that play would have never happened, and our whole season looks a whole lot different. Trubisky may still be quarterback in this team. Okay? Because everything else after that, to me, that one play impacted the rest of the season. Now, again, TJ comes back, and we'll get into what we got coming down the pike a little bit later. But the bottom line is, it changed the whole course of our season. Because, in my opinion, Cameron Haywood can't afford to go down, TJ Watt can't afford to go down, and Minka Fitzpatrick can't afford to go down if your defense is supposed to bend what we expected it to be.
Right.
Unfortunately, TJ has gone down. He is the number one player that could not afford. Listen, if Cam goes down, yes, that impacts your whole line. TJ going down impacts your defensive line, your line, and your corners. Okay? So, to me, that was the one injury that we could not afford to have. And unfortunately, he went down.
Yeah.
But if our cornerbacks just catch the ball, he doesn't go down.
Again, I mean, here's the thing. In any one of those games, like, heck, again, I keep referencing Miami because, again, we had 4 to 5 chances to pick the ball off and didn't. Same situation at the New York Jets game. We had some time to pick the ball off and didn't get it done. Even with TJ out.
We had opportunity.
opportunity.
And to me, that's, okay, I understand what I'm about to say. Don't nobody lose their lunch over it.
Yeah.
To me, that's great coaching. Because you had your people in position to make the play. They just didn't.
They didn't make the play.
Okay? Now, that may mean something else come draft time, free agency time, because you need playmakers. But you had your people in position. They just did not make a play. Go back to that Miami game. Except for that first possession they had when they went down and scored 7-0. I think even in that they had an opportunity to intercept the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me
Terrell Edmonds dropped it.
Yeah.
Hit it right in the nose.
Every time Miami was in position to put points on the board, we were in a position to stop them from putting points on the board and didn't. Every last single time.
Yep.
So again, as you mentioned, lost opportunities. We had an opportunity to win that one, didn't. We had an opportunity to beat the Jets. We were up by 14 points on them in the second half. Didn't do it.
Yeah.
We were up on Cleveland at halftime. Didn't do it. The Patriot game kept going back and forth as far as the people moving the ball. A play here, a play there. Somebody turned their head here. It's a whole different game. Missed opportunities. Defensively coaching, we were in the position to make the play. We just didn't make it. And what the problem with that is when your offense has been as pedestrian as our offense has been, you cannot afford defensively not to make the plays. I remember back in 2010, we played the San Diego Chargers, beat them, and did not score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay? Why was that? We had James Harrison causing a sack strip fumble. We had Troy Polamalu making a fingertip catch. We had playmakers making plays.
Yeah.
This defense, all they got to do is make the plays that are presented. I'm not even talking about trying to do something special. Make the plays that are presenting themselves to you, You'll be fine.
Yeah. With that, I mean, again, solid points all the way around. With that, we go into this bye. Hopefully we get some rest. TJ Watt potentially is going to come back. His 21-day, clock started a week ago, so all signs up to him returning. We turn our attention to what's coming down, the road for us. We come out of this bye, play the Saints. Then we got a Sunday night, tit versus the Bengals again. Colts, Falcons, Ravens twice, Panthers, Raiders, and then the Browns. Realistic expectations is kind of where I'm going with this. Give me your thoughts as the second half of the season kicks off for us next Sunday on the 13th versus the Saints, and kind of give me your position on how you feel we could potentially turn this thing around and kind of finish this thing out before we start talking, January football, if you will.
Okay, as you already mentioned, we start off with the Saints with Andy Dalton as your quarterback, and if you know anything about me, you know how I feel about Andy Dalton as your quarterback.
Right.
Also, they just put the best receiver on IR, so he's done for at least 4
Michael
games.
Thomas ain't the best receiver. I think Chris Olave is probably better than him, but we'll talk. That's neither here nor there.
Okay, let's talk reputation. Okay?
Right.
A rookie receiver. I'm not talking about what they did this year per se, but I'm talking about what the reputation of
Right.
Okay, so I think that's a winnable game.
That's at home, right?
Yes, it is. It is at home. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is, we don't have to worry about the Steelers trying to tank for draft capital and all other kind of stuff like people have been accusing other teams of doing.
That's not what we do.
That's not a Tomlin issue. There's definitely not a Flores issue.
Yeah.
And people got to realize tanking, all that does is cost people jobs. But so I think we'll be fine with the Saints coming out of the bye. We follow up with the Bengals, and we've already beaten Joe Burrows with T.J. Watt. So T.J. Watt's planning to be back by then, hopefully. I think we could still beat him, especially since this game's at home.
And they don't have Jamar Chase.
And they won't have Jamar Chase. The Colts, the great Matt Ryan experiment is over. I don't even remember the name of the quarterback who they have.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is the Colts have been, for the most part, pretty mediocre throughout the year. We come in with the Falcons still follows with Marcus Mariota. It's not a great quarterback. I think the offense have looked well the last few
They're a
weeks,
scrappy bunch.
but who knows what that's going to happen. Then we follow with the Ravens, and the Steelers seem to have a pretty decent record against the Ravens, even with Lamar Jackson. And although they have never beaten us with Ben's not here, but I am more concerned about the Ravens now that they got that linebacker from the
Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
From the Bears.
Him and Queen can cause some problems, I promise you that.
My thing with the Ravens, here's the thing. Like, getting Roquan Smith is great for them. But it doesn't fix the glaring issue.
The passing offense?
They have no passing offense, and their offensive line is not great.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
You got to be able to dominate on one side of the ball, and if you can't fix your offense, you better stack up on your defense.
I mean, I give you that. I give you that, but again...
Case in point, let's go back to the 2000 Ravens. Do you think their offense was prolific? Do you think that quarterback was all of that in the bag of chip? But that defense was legit. Was so dominant that year that they won a championship.
The defense was legit. I give them that. But at the end of the day, I think that's a game again. We're agreeing here, but I think that's a game that...
Yeah, I think the Steelers going to win it.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers going to win it because, like I said, I think we've always had success against the Ravens.
Yeah.
The Panthers, I was hoping Baker Mayfield was still the quarterback then. But he's not.
He just might get back in the game, man. He just might get back in the game. P.J. Walker's balling.
Yeah, he is balling. That's why I say the offense looks a whole lot better with the change of quarterback. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, go back and listen to the podcast after the end of last year, and I'll give you my impressions of what I thought of Baker Mayfield.
Right.
The Raiders, we follow them up with Derek Carr and crew.
They always seem to have our number.
They seem to always play us extremely well, especially well, that game is in Pittsburgh and is the 50th year of the Immaculate Reception, so know, obviously the heavens are going to open up and give us that one.
Yay! Let's go!
Don't get me wrong. You know my feelings about God and football.
Yeah.
Go down that road. Then we play Lamar again, and we end up with Cleveland again.
Yeah.
Truth be told, would I be totally shocked if the Steelers won them all? No. because I don't fear not one quarterback on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if it isn't a quarterback-driven league, and we're having a lot of issues we're having because, like I mentioned earlier, with the play of our quarterbacks, I don't fear any of these quarterbacks. Defensively, the only one that I would give credit to defensively may be the Ravens. I think the Saints' defense is overblown. They got some good players, don't get me wrong, but I think they're overblown. I'm not impressed with the Bengals. I'm definitely not impressed with the Colts, although they got 2 inside linebackers I wouldn't mind having.
Yeah.
The Falcons, I don't know what their defense is going. Matter of fact, when I look at their statistics, defense, I'm not impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers, okay, come on.
Right.
They're in the fire cell. They're getting rid of all their players.
Yeah, they really are.
The Raiders, they're 2-6, like we are 2-6.
Mm-hmm.
Not impressed with them. In Cleveland, yeah, you got one decent player on that team defensively from my perspective, but if I had my choice between T.J. Watt and
Myles Garrett,
I'm taking T.J. all day. So, to answer your question, could we go undefeated? Yes. Do I think we will? Probably not, because I don't think our offense is consistent enough to have that be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, I see us going losing a game or two here, but I will say this. If we beat the Bengals and we beat the Ravens twice and beat the Cleveland Browns, there is still, even at 6-2, a strong possibility the Steelers could win this division.
Mm-hmm.
Because go back and look at Cleveland versus Cincinnati last week. Everybody and their mother thought the Bengals would, even without Chase, would come just boat chase the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns won the game. So, again, I don't fear any of the quarterbacks. I don't see a dominant defense in the group. So, could the Steelers make some hay? Yes. If you go back and look at it from our podcast from a few months ago, we indicated that this is the time we thought Kenny Pickett would come past, because the truth of the matter be told, Patriots, they're not all of that since Brady's left especially, but they still have a defensive-minded coach. The Jets, I like Saleh as a defensive-minded coach. I don't really care if he was an offensive-minded coach.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills, everybody's favorite to win the AFC and represent the Super Bowl. They are what they are, and they probably got better during the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles, say what you want to say about them. They haven't lost yet, so you give them the props.
Right.
We face some pretty tough defenses. I think the easier part of the defenses is coming up. So, yes, I do think we can make some hay. If we don't go undefeated, could I see us winning or losing only 2 of those games? Yes. And to be honest with you, if I say we're going to lose one, I think we may split with the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Raiders
only because they always play us tough, and we always seem to throw up on ourselves when we play them.
I don't understand why.
I don't either. We seem to do it. But I can see us beating Cleveland, even with Deshaun Watson coming back, who hasn't played in almost 2 years, so I think he's not going to be on game.
Mm-hmm.
If we split with Lamar, I don't see us losing to the Panthers. I don't see us losing to the Falcons. I don't see us losing to the Colts. If T.J. Watt is back, I don't see us losing to the Saints.
Right. Well, all signs look to T.J. being. He was in practice last week, and his 21 day clock, whatever, started a week ago. So I do believe he'll be activated for next Sunday's game against the Saints, and that would be a definite shot in the arm, especially with it being at home. Andy Dalton being who he is. It's, again, I like how the second half kind of falls for us, which makes what took place in the first half so annoying. Yeah. Because we could have really set ourselves up, for a nice little 2022 campaign if we make the plays that are there.
Yeah. And that's the bad thing about it. Again, to me, T.J. Watt is a great eraser.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, you drop an interception when he's out there, he's going to pressure the quarterback, get a sack, strip fumble, or do something, or make the quarterback throw the ball a second before he wants to, gives you another opportunity. He can erase your mistakes. He can erase the mistakes you cannot make when he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, if he's back, and let's just hope that he stays healthy.
Yeah.
If he comes back and he's not healthy, he's a shell of himself, that's a whole different situation.
Mm-hmm.
But if he is the player that we all have seen in the last 3.5, 4 years, I don't see any reason why the Steelers can't make a run at the latter part of the season. Now, whether that's enough to get him into the playoffs, again, you win your division, you're automatically in. You don't, you got to play a whole bunch of other
what-if games, and we lost a lot of tiebreakers to a lot of people.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, I personally think the Bills are going to win the division. I think the Dolphins are going to be a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cleveland's not going to be in the running. I don't think the Patriots are going to still be in the running, although they did beat the Jets last week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Jets are necessarily going to be in the running.
Yeah, I think the Jets are really about to implode on themselves.
So, get a nice little winning streak going here in the season. I think there's 6 games left, 7 games left. Whatever.
Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Got 9 games left. If you go 7-2, you can sneak in as a wild card, maybe, because everybody thought the AFC West was going to be all of that, and all of those teams stink except the Chiefs.
Yep.
Okay. The Broncos stinks. They did a fire sale. The Broncos is Denver. Raiders
suck.
And the quarterback that everybody says is all that in the bag of chips can't win a game.
Yeah, Herbert.
So that's out. The East, you're going to have at least 2 teams. You have the Bills, and I believe you may have the Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins and the Bills will be there.
So that goes to the South.
Yeah.
Whoever wins division is going to win the division. Nobody else out of that division is coming.
Well, see, that's the crazy thing about that division. I mean, Tennessee Titans, you got the Colts, who we see in 3 weeks or so, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Houston Texans are not going to win the division.
So again, the Steelers, if they end up 9-8, and by the way, Tomlin still won't have a losing season.
Yeah, I know that's the crazy thing. That's the crazy thing.
They can find themselves in the midst of this if they just play ball. If they don't turn the ball over, if T.J. Watt is back and they do what they did not do previously, take advantage of the opportunities that are given you. If the ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it.
Yeah.
Offensively and defensively. I think the offense will be better from this perspective, and although we have not touched on it, is because when you had Chase, Claypool, and a Pratt Freiermuth,
mm-hmm.
Who's the one going down the scene?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Mike Tomlin mentioned earlier this week, talking about the trade where he felt very, very comfortable with Pat Freiermuth occupying, and I think his exact wording was they occupy that same space.
Mm-hmm.
And so he felt very, very comfortable with Pat Freiermuth occupying that space. Therefore, we was able to flip Chase for essentially what we paid for him.
Well, the thing about Chase, Claypool is this. Again, when you have a rookie that comes in and basically just takes your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Pickens is that. He is that. And
He's him.
If Pickens, if Kenny Pickett, get Pickens and Pickett next up.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the quarterback situation settled, who are you going to cover off on the outside of Pittsburgh?
Here's the thing. I think, again, you said if. I think this may be me just, thinking ahead. I think that's our guy.
He's going to be your number one receiver?
No, I think Kenny Pickett is the quarterback. I think that's the guy.
I think he is too. Despite the fact somebody said recently in the media that the Steelers are not out of the quarterback market.
Yeah, that was Ryan Clark. I read it. I saw it.
I wasn't going to name names.
Ryan Clark. I saw it. And essentially for me, I think Kenny Pickett's the guy. So which leads me to understand that it's going to be Kenny Pickett throwing to George Pickens for the next 4 at least.
Hey, we're going to have the killer peas.
Yeah, we're going to have peas. We had the killer bees, now we got the killer peas.
We're going to have Pat Freiermuth, Pickens, and Pickens.
And Pickens, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm coining that. I am patenting that, so nobody steal that,
okay? You heard it first, gentlemen, here on the Sports City Chefs Network. So honestly, I think that's our guy. So essentially, back to what you were saying, with Pat Freiermuth occupying the middle of the field, the seam stuff, Deontay Johnson doing
with
Deontay Johnson, and so essentially.
Think about it from this perspective. And again, I know this is the land of ifs and buts and whatever, but the bottom line is this: if your quarterback is set, your receiving core is set. If Najee becomes what he is supposed to be, and then if he don't, if the other guy does come what you're supposed to be, the only thing you have to fix now,
offensive line.
And get yourself a coordinator who knows how to do a pro corner, a pro set.
No, it's the offense.
Offensive stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at college stuff right now.
Now, defensively, You will have a problem because Cameron Hayward is not a young chicken, although he really sat out his first 2.5, 3 years because you had Diesel and whatever.
Yeah, you had Brent Kiesel there. Yeah. You had Aaron Smith there.
So he's aging, but he's still a beast. You have your T.J. Watt. We didn't get into the trade of
Claypool.
No, not the trade of Williams Jackson.
You said William Jackson III from the Commanders.
Okay, I don't know what he's going to be. He's a press man corner, but I don't know what he's going to do in the Steelers' offensive scheme. So you got some questions you still need to answer as far as your corners are concerned, because before this year happened, I really was a Weatherspoon supporter. I still like him, but I don't think he's the shutdown corner that I was hoping he would be.
I don't think we have a shutdown corner because, in my opinion, now rectify me if I'm wrong, in order to be a shutdown corner, you have to play a lot more man than we do, and we play a lot more zone.
No, we play more man than we do zone.
I'm not too sure that's accurate because, and what I've seen, now again, I could be wrong. We sit in a lot more cover 3, cover 2 zone than we do press man anything.
Okay. When your starting cornerbacks are healthy, now the starting cornerbacks were supposed to be Levi Wallace,
and Cam Sutton.
No. Sutton's going to be the inside because you play nickel more than you
play sub, so I guess, yeah, okay, I got you.
So Weatherspoon and Sutton, Weatherspoon and Wallace on the outside, and Sutton is your slot receiver. Sure. My issue is I don't have a problem with press man, but if you play press man, you better either have a very fierce pass rush, or you better have people who are extremely sticky. Now, I understand Witherspoon has been beaten on a number of different occasions.
Too many.
But show me when he was out of position. I can tell we can agree he didn't make the play. But even when he got beat, show me when he was not in position. I like him, but unless he is the quintessential Ike Taylor.
Swaggy. I love Swaggy.
I love Taylor when he played, but I was surprised when he caught this interception in the Super Bowl 40 or 50. Whatever. I was surprised because he dropped everything.
Yeah.
He covered A.J. Green up and down the field. A.J. Green didn't do nothing for the most part against the Steelers. He just never would catch the ball. So part of being a shutdown corner, the difference between Dion and Taylor was if you put that ball in Dion's grass,
it's going
the other way.
Yeah, it's going the other way.
You put it in Taylor's area code, it's going to get swatted down. He'll make the tackle, but it ain't getting picked and running the other way.
Yeah.
So I don't look at Witherspoon as a shutdown. Wallace has been hurt so much this year, I can't get a clear evaluation.
Yeah, I can't either.
Okay. Sutton, I think his best position is inside corner. He can play some boundary corner. I think William Jackson III is going to come in here. They're going to try to use him in spot situations to cover certain things. I can't evaluate him because I've not watched his film.
I watched enough of him. He got drafted by Cincinnati, and then obviously he was up the street playing with the Commanders. Yeah, and I get front row access to the Commander stuff. So
but again, the issue with the Commanders is the Commanders play zone.
They play a lot of zone.
He's not a zone.
Not a zone corner. Not a zone corner.
So that's putting a square peg
in a round hole.
It won't work too well.
Yeah.
So I cannot evaluate. What I would say at this particular point, again, we're not talking draft. That's a few months later down the road.
Yeah.
I would draft a corner, an offensive lineman, and a defensive lineman.
First three?
Or inside linebacker in his first three. Like I said, Bush has played well. Is he played so well? I'm gonna give him a bag? No. I would pay him well, but I'm not giving him a bag.
Yeah.
Okay. Bush right now, to me, if I would just do this with Bush, I would sign another 2-year contract with the Steelers, making $8 million a year. Prove your worth before I turn around and try to hand you $20 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's what they decide to do, so be it. If they decide to go a different direction, if Bush says, I want to get paid now, I want to demand my $18 million a year.
He's not worth that. Ain't nobody, I don't foresee anybody, this is looking down there, I don't see anybody giving Devin Bush that type of money. But before we get out of here, Dad.
I know we're pressed up against.
Well, no, we're good. We got a couple minutes left. I did want to talk about the trades that took place.
Okay.
Chase Claypool getting flipped for a second, going to Chicago Bears, and obviously William Jackson coming in for nothing, actually.
Yeah, I know.
You said you love the move for Chase Claypool. Mm-hmm. Tell me why you love the move so much.
Because I think that even with Chase Claypool, the Bears are going to stake enough to be a high draft pick, and the Steelers will have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds next year. They'll have their own second, they'll have the Bears second, they'll have their own first, they'll have their own third. Within the first 4 days, which means typically within the first 60-some-odd picks or 90-some-odd picks, whatever the number is, they will have an opportunity to draft impact players.
Impact players, yeah.
When you take a look at the Steelers' current offensive side of the ball, they need to fix their offensive line, whether that means a left guard, a tackle, whatever they decide on going more, whatever. I think Dotson is a serviceable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Player. I don't think he's a starter.
Yeah.
Moore, I'm still debating this one right now.
You need to go.
Okay. Well,
you need to go.
We can
Same with Dotson. They both need to go.
Okay. But if you do that, what do you draft him? And what do you do with your defensive line? Because Wormley's going to be gone next year. Alualu's going to be gone next year. I'm not a fan of either of the Davis brothers, who we still have apparently on our practice squad this year. I think Leal was doing well before he got hurt.
Yeah.
I like
Ogunjobi. I like Larry Ogunjobi on my defensive line.
The question is, at what price? Remember last year, before they failed him on his physical, he got a $40 million contract. Is he that for you? And if he isn't for you, what do you do? If he is, that's another question, because now you're going to put him in the same category as you put Cam Hayward, which I don't think he's that.
Oh, no, ain't no way in the world he's that.
So my point is, you cannot pay him more than Cam. So at what price is he willing to come in? Again, if you can afford it and it works financially, I don't have a problem with Ogunjobi. But if you don't, you got to question whether you're going to deal with Marvin Leal or Loudermilk, or it's one of these guys, or are you going to draft somebody? There's a defensive lineman from Georgia who is better than the guys that went last year. I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, his name escapes me. I'm seeing him in my mind's eye right now. But to say they're better than Jordan Davis.
Okay, I'm gonna put it this way: if this guy would have came out last year when the other 2 Georgia boys came out, he would have been the first one off the board. Yeah. Okay, let me just put it that way. Forget what they're doing in the pros. Okay, so if you're going to go defensive line, great. That means you're going to go second. That means your second round is going to be your offensive lineman.
We're going to go receiver like we always do.
No, we don't need a receiver.
I know we don't, but you know how we're going to do this.
Yeah, but if we do it, we're not doing it to day 3, in my opinion. Because let me tell you, you have Deontay Johnson locked up for the next few years. You got George Pickens who's on your first year, who's your first year in his first year. So as far as a starter is concerned, you're not looking for an immediate starter. I'm telling you, you haven't seen it. Calvin Austin is going to be in this mix next year.
I believe you.
Okay, you still got Sims. You still got Boykins if you want to go that way with him. He's a good special team. I can't tell you anything about it outside of that. And if push comes to shove, you got the guy that came from New England as a slot receiver.
Gunner.
You don't need a receiver.
Well, need is not an option, not a thing. But every year for the past several, we draft a receiver in the second round.
Okay. But I'm saying is, this year you can't afford to do that. And the reason why is because it's not a pressing. When you got to fix an offensive line, receiver's luxury, especially when you got what you got in the ball.
Yeah.
If Cam, again, hope he plays the next 10 years. But if he don't, and you don't sign a Joko,
Larry Ogunjobi?
Yeah,
that guy.
If you don't sign him, you got to ask yourself, what are you going to do with that other defensive end? He's a good part-time player. He's not a starter.
He's not a starter. Nah, he's not a starter.
So if he's gone, Ogunjobi's gone, what do you do there? Again, depending upon what they do as far as Devin Bush is concerned, you may need an inside linebacker. Mm-hmm. They still have to answer the question, how much they're going to invest in another outside linebacker, because although I love Watt and I like Highsmith, if either one of them go down, you got what we currently got.
Well, I mean, you got Jamar Jones back there who's decent. Mark Robinson, who you loved.
Okay, Mark Robinson's inside linebacker.
He's inside, yeah.
Yes, he's not outside. Yeah. Okay. Again, yes, I did love and do love Robinson, but he's not played this year, so I love what he showed us in preseason. I love what I saw when I was at training camp. Do it for real in games, it is what it is. Okay, so to answer your original question, I'm digressing.
Are you good? You good?
I like the idea of giving away Claypool because you got a high round draft pick on a guy who, at this point, for basically what you have, is a spare part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Although I do know offenses typically run 3 wide receiver sets more, you got other people who can play that position. And to get a high, what I consider a high second round pick, because I still think Chicago's going to suck.
Yeah.
I would do that 15 times over.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. This is one that I think you and I are in lockstep because what you didn't mention, and again, Tom is not going to mention it publicly, but he's in a contract year.
No, he got 1 more year left.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, you gotta look down the road and see like, okay, if we didn't move Chase Claypool next year, we would have to answer the question what we're doing with Chase Claypool. Keep in mind, that's also the same year that we have to address Deontay Johnson again because he only signed a 2-year deal. So Deontay's playing this year.
He's on a 3-year deal.
It was a 2-year.
It's 3 years. It's 3 years. It's a 3-year deal. Go back and check it, but
I'll check. But I'm pretty sure it was a 2-year. But I mean, if it was 3 year, then I get it.
They wouldn't have done a 2-year deal with Deontay Johnson because that doesn't get you anything. All that's just kick the can down.
I mean, I thought they kicked the can down because he got tagged, and then he signed the deal.
He never got tagged.
When he got tagged. Okay, I could be mistaken, but
okay,
my thinking was okay. So you got to pay Claypool in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah,
anyway,
in 2 years you would have had to pay him.
Yeah. So we drafted him in the second round. So we got a second round draft pick for him. So essentially, it's a wash.
It's a wash based off who you pick. Value-wise, as far as the draft and so on, you can sit there and say yes because of what you just mentioned. But the question is not what round you drafted. The question is what do you get in return. Case in point, if we take Chicago Bears next year's second round pick and we draft an offensive guard who turns around and becomes all pro, was it a wash?
No, it wasn't.
But it's only a wash.
Came up, yeah.
It's only a wash because of the draft value. It was not a wash because of if Claypool turns around and goes to Chicago and blows up, and then we draft somebody who gets cut. Is it a wash? No, not because I understand what you mean when you say it's a wash because of the draft pick.
Yeah.
But it's not a wash because of the player that you're trading away for.
Well, that's TBD.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is. But that's always hindsight.
Well, I mean, again, but at the end of the day, we're talking in circles.
But the
question we picked him up in the second. We got a second back for him.
So therefore, from the draft capital perspective, it's not going to move the needle one way.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea because, again, depending upon how the Steelers play out the rest of the season, let's just say the Steelers, for whatever reason, don't play well the rest of the season, and then we end up, with a high draft pick number in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pick 2 of the top 50 players.
Yeah.
You're going to have actually 3 of the top 50 players. What did they say? Top 60 players. You're going to have
top 60. Yeah.
You have your own first round pick, whatever that number is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to try and have 2 high second round picks, whatever that number is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then you still get your third round. So, for a person that you were not going to re-sign, yeah, I think it's a great deal.
Yeah.
Because even if you say, for example, if Johnson's contract's a 3-year deal, you're going to have an issue you're going to have to bring up because Pickens signed a 4-year deal. Our rookies who are not first round signed 4-year deals.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to pay
one of them
or both of them if you choose to go down that road.
Yeah.
Claypool was out of the mix the minute they drafted Pickens.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I made the comment when I saw pick being made. I said, "You just picked your replacement."
Yeah.
not even knowing Pickens played, see him playing. I said, "You just picked your replacement."
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is, when the minute they spent a second round capital on him, you became
expendable.
Yep. You just became expendable. Now, in relation to the other trade that took place with...
We touched on them a little bit, but yeah, give me your position on that one.
Again, I don't know what to think about it because I know what my perspective was when he came out of the draft because I was hoping the Steelers would draft him.
Yeah.
The Bengals picked him to pick before the Steelers, and we ended up with Artie Burns.
Yeah.
So, It's not his fault where he got picked. I thought the Steelers were in love with the man before the draft. I think they will give him every opportunity because what this does do, it puts more of a doubt on a Pierre.
Another guy who I'm not really high on.
The Steelers were. He was undrafted free agent, came in and won a starting job in his second year, so the Steelers thought he had something. I do recognize that when Witherspoon got benched, they put him in there. So, I think it hurts him more than anybody else at this particular point.
I think it hurts Witherspoon more than it does Pierre.
One of them's getting sat down.
I think it hurts Witherspoon more than Pierre.
Because the thing about the trading of him, you have to find out what you have, which means you got to play him. Which means either Witherspoon's going to be sat, Wallace is going to be sat.
Wallace ain't said himself due to injury.
Well, maybe. Again, whatever the reason why. Or you're not sitting down Sutton.
Yeah, Sutton's
going to play. If nothing else, he plays strictly inside. Which
could you play him at nickel?
No.
And move Arthur Millette?
No. What? Who played who? Millette as far as who you talking about playing Jackson in the middle?
Yeah.
No, he's a boundary corner. He's a boundary corner. He's a bump and run boundary corner. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Put him in the field where he has to make a left decision, going left or right. Let me use that sideline as another defender.
Yeah.
Sutton's better at it. Millette, again, if you go back to the other broadcast, I was not overly happy about that. He's serviceable. He can make a play here or there, whatever the case may be. But as far as a full-time starter, I never wanted to see him be that, as far as Millette is concerned. I know his mom and dad may want to be a full-time starter. Me as a fan,
yeah.
see that. So somebody's going to be sat down because you need to find out what you're going to do as far as Jackson's concerned, because come the end of the year, if nothing changes, which I'm not saying it wouldn't, but if nothing changes, you got a $12 million contract corner on your hands. That's what you got coming up. You have to make a decision. And you didn't trade around, even though a 6th-round pick 3 years from now doesn't mean a whole lot to us now. You got to determine whether you got something there or not. So whether that's through practice, because if you remember, Jackson is in the same position that Witherspoon was in last year.
Right.
Yeah, which I find interesting. But my point is, you got to find out what you got in him. Now, does that mean he starts out of the Saint games? Probably not. He doesn't probably know enough for the defense to start.
I think I think come in and play situational.
Yeah, especially if one of your other 2 starting corners is hurt. What this really does, it says, Millette, you're on the bench. Cameron Sutton, I know you think you're an outside corner. You may be able to play it. Stay inside.
Stay inside.
Stay inside.
Especially since 95% of defense is played in sub.
So he's going to play.
No.
So that's my impression on those 2. I'm happy for Chase. He now gets to go be someone's number 1.
He's number 2 out there.
Who's the number 1 receiver?
Darnell Mooney. He's the number 2.
Okay.
So Chase goes out there and be the number 2 guy.
Well, it's better than he was in Pittsburgh because he was number 3 and 4.
He's number 3 and 4. Honestly, I think Chase Claypool's going to do really, really well out there with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears.
I think so too, because he has a big body. He can throw the ball up and go get it.
Yeah.
Now the issue is when he go get it, because here he didn't go get it.
He didn't go get it.
Okay. I can point out a couple plays this past year where if he just went out and go get it, it would have changed the course of the game.
Right.
But he didn't go get it. So if he goes and gets it there, great for him. I don't have any well feeling about Chase Claypool, which goes back to my point as far as buying people's jerseys before their second contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I saw some article out there this past week where they're trying to now compare Najee to Richardson.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So
see, this is the thing is like people did that same thing to Derrick Henry before he blew up and did it.
I'm not down on Najee as far as what he's going to be. I can say
he's having a down year.
This year is not as good as year.
He's having a bad year.
Now whether that's part of the Liz Frank injury or what? Okay, your foot doesn't infect your eyes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And he's missing holes.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to burst through and run like you used to because of your foot injury, but you can at least pick the right hole.
Yeah.
So, and if you remember Richardson, that was his issue.
Yeah.
He could never pick a hole.
Never pick a hole.
He had a great first year.
Oh, so did Najee.
Yeah, but he couldn't pick a hole.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case.
Well,
I like Najee.
I do too. I think he's a good guy.
If it is the case, that is, again, I can't say that because there's other first-round draft pick running backs who are doing very well. So I can't say it impacts other people's opinion about how fungible. Can you imagine you spend a first-round pick on a running back and an undrafted free agent comes and takes your job?
Hey. Well, Mike Tomlin said, after the Cincinnati Bengals game, he didn't pee down his leg. He's doing things. He's doing work.
He's playing well.
He's playing very well.
He's playing well.
Blitz pickup is great.
Mm-hmm.
Catching the ball out of the backfield. Again, he's averaging 5.5 a pop with the same offensive line that you and I differ on, but is not playing up to
Okay.
par.
I would put it this way as far as the offensive line. We can close on this.
Yeah.
This is not a run blocking offensive line. They are a pass blocking offensive line. Despite the fact the quarterbacks have been sacked as much as they have, I will challenge you. Go back and see how much of that is the quarterback's fault versus the offensive line's fault. Go and see how many times a quarterback ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage what goes against a sack, but it's not a sack. Go back and look at how many times the quarterback turned and ran into the sack when the offensive line was trying to push the thing past them and they turned around and ran into the sack. Not all sacks, just like not all interceptions are
Created equal, yeah.
So the offensive line, for the most part, they have their flaws in run blocking. I think for the most part, they've been a very good offensive line pass blocking. For the most part, does that mean they would score 100 out of 100? Probably not. But I promise you, they're not the 60 that most people thought they were going to be. They're up in the 80s and low 90s.
Yeah, we're gonna have to disagree there.
Okay, I'm talking pass blocking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pass blocking, run blocking. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, that the offensive line is the pass blocking offensive line. And
Okay, go. Okay, I think I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, you know me well enough, so yeah.
Look from perspective. When you find yourself in games where everybody and their mother knows you're going to throw the ball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck, we
cannot run the ball.
We can't run the ball to begin with.
So therefore, everybody and their mother forget the pass fake, forget play action.
Yeah.
You're in shotgun the majority of the time, and you got rookies and an average quarterback in your backfield. Okay. All I'm saying is I understand when the quarterback goes down, everybody throws their hands up and blows and blames the offensive lineman. Take it from a former offensive lineman. It's not always their fault. They'll get the blame, they'll get the credit, but it's not always their fault.
I'll give you that.
Okay?
I'll give you that. With that being said, man, Dad, it's a pleasure, man. As I always say, man, I love doing this, man. It's fun. It's fun. We need to get on the mic a lot more often, man. With that being said, thanks for rocking with us. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Sports City, chefs, Sports City, chefs. Yeah. Cabbie, Taj. That's right.